Got him that time. They are starting to move around and eat now. Earlier they were all just sitting there and finally started moving around. Just a little too jumpy on them first 2 or 3 that bit me. Look at that stud, dude. What's up, everyone? We are here at Table Rock Lake. We are in that what I would call late winter, early spring time of the year. I mean, the water temperatures, I'm seeing 46.2, 46.3 right now. So, you know, we're just in that phase where we've gone through some real cold spells. The water temperatures are starting to warm up, and it's going to be interesting to see. I haven't been on Table Rock lately. Generally, when the water temperatures start warming up this time of the year, the fish get active. We do have a full moon coming up actually tomorrow, so usually that gets a lot of these fish moving around. Hopefully today we can catch some on a McStick 110+1, a rock crawler. We may have to get out and look for some of those deep fish and throw a Demiki rig around or an underspin, but we're going to just mill around a little bit today and see what we can make happen here on Table Rock. We always seem to go through a phase on this lake when the water temperatures first start coming up where that real slimy stuff starts growing, and then it'll eventually go away. There's years that you can't even... There he is. He come up and got it good. Got the old jerkbait. Old spot. That fish, I didn't hardly see that fish on live scope when I threw out there. I jerked it a couple times and up she came and got it. Barely got it though, didn't she? Tell you what, it's just, for me this time of the year, there's going to be about, 4 or 5 baits that I'm going to have laying on the deck. I'm going to have a rock crawler, I'm going to have a McStick 110, a 110+1, some kind of Demiki rig, and a underspin, and I really feel like you can get done what you want to get done this time of year with those 4 baits. You know, we've really first kind of got into throwing suspending jerk baits. The big thing for us, especially on this lake and Beaver and Bull Shoals, was we felt like you had to let the bait set forever to get these fish to bite it in cold water. And I really believe over time and watching what these fish and how they react on live scope, I really believe it's more a matter of we were letting our bait set there until a fish swam by the bait. It wasn't necessarily that we had to work the bait slow to catch them. It was just we were letting the bait sit there long enough that the fish finally swam by and saw the bait and ate it. And even in cold water, I've found the last 3 or 4 or 5 years with live scope that you can work the bait pretty hard when you're actually around them and pretty fast. And even in cold water, and they'll still come and get it. They still like it paused occasionally, but it just doesn't seem like you have to let it set for 30 seconds or a minute like we once thought you had to. So one of the biggest things, when you're fishing really any lake across the country this time of the year, you look out here right now and you can see a bunch of birds flying, a bunch of birds sitting on the water. And this is one of those prime areas where fish that have been wintering out on the main river channel can pull up into these areas. You've got 3 major drains that go up into these 3 arms right here. And this is always an area that I'm going to pay a lot of attention to, especially when you've got birds diving and milling around like they are right here. I'm going to throw the live scope in the water. I'm going to mill around out here, look for the bait, look for fish that are possibly suspended in them. If I don't find them out here deeper, then I'm going to start focusing more on all of these secondary points. I'm not going to waste a lot of time fishing through all these pockets and just down these straight banks, but I'm going to really start looking at the secondary points and the main lake points that these fish will push up on and feed this time of year. Probably one of the biggest things that I see happen every year, and you can really kind of say, okay, things are transitioning, is when you start seeing the bait rise up in the water column. I mean, all winter long, that bait generally will be down there, you know, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 foot deep. And once the days start getting longer and you get more sunshine, more warm days, you start seeing that bait start lifting, and that's really what gets everything happening in the springtime. I mean, that's when you can start really moving around, really paying attention to bait, and just following the bait as the year progresses or as the spring progresses. I really think what they're doing is they're staying right there on the edge of that sun. So they're sunning, but they're setting right on that shade line, and it gives them that bit of security that they're looking for. And that's exactly where that fish was. He just wouldn't eat a jerkbait. Clear out off the dock in the shade. You know, when I'm throwing this little swim bait on light line, especially when I throw it on 8 and 10, I love to throw it on the 417 cranker. I mean, it's that Mansfield, and it's just such a soft rod. I mean, you could almost see that rod load to that fish when he got it. I'm tired of catching spots though, I know that. Big old fat ones, but just that little 3.9 inch swimmer, good spot. But like I said, anytime I'm throwing like 8 or 10 pound test line, I really like that cranker. I mean, it loads up good. You won't take the bait away from them. If I'm throwing, you know, heavier baits, 3/8, half, you know, 5/8, I like the 5173, but anytime I'm throwing it on lighter line, I like that 417. Got him that time. They are starting to move around and eat now. Earlier they were all just sitting there, and finally started moving around. Just a little too jumpy on them first 2 or 3 that bit me. Still spots. It's no good one. The old spinning rod got to get in on the action. Remember I dipped that tail chartreuse earlier? Now that they're eating, they want that little thing. Basically, I'm just throwing a 417 Cara with 12-pound braid to a 8-pound fluorocarbon sunline leader. And again, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, we were seeing some fish and some bait, but they really weren't moving. I mean, you throw a bait at them, they wouldn't react to it. And I mean, now the fish are actually moving around. It's actually hard to keep up with them on live scope, but if you get a bait around them, they're flat eating it now. I mean, I've had 3 bites here in the last 5-10 minutes, so. There we go. I knew they eventually had to bite that underspin. Still spot. I mean, he came at it with a vengeance. Big old spots on this lake. Just a little 3/8 ounce underspin, a little Bass Pro Shop swim minnow on it. And if we could just get rid of these spots and catch some largemouth, we'd be doing a lot better today. I mean, probably the biggest thing, and if you look at what we've done today, I mean, we fished the main lake, we fished, you know, we're way back in the creek right now, and honestly, coming back in this creek, I truly thought that we would up our odds of catching a largemouth. I mean, generally the spots will hang more out on the main lake, they'll be around gravel, they'll be around the bait a lot more, and I thought when we got back here in here around the timber, that the odds would go up catching a largemouth. But I'm always focusing on secondary points. I'm focusing on places where there's like a channel swing that comes off of this particular bank that creates a secondary point, and then you've got another channel that comes out of the other pocket there. So I mean, this time of year, I mean, if you're not focusing on the actual channels, the ditches, the creek channels, the drains, however you want to refer to them, you want to focus on points. I mean, to me, I can run this lake. Usually, anytime I get in trouble, I can run this lake and just fish as many points as I can through the course of the day, and eventually you're going to run into some fish. So basically what we've got right here, I mean, I talked about the channel swinging off one side over there. It swings off of there and then it swings back and it swings right up against this. So you've got kind of a channel swing that feeds into a transitional, rock area. You can see where the rock goes from ledge to more gravel up there. You've got timber along this channel swing, and then it cleans up there on the point itself. And I just like to mix it up. I mean, I just picked up a 110+1 again and just lost another one. And I mean, it's one of those situations that this time of year you don't want to get yourself rabbit holed into just throwing one bait. I mean, we all know with live scope and what's going on, you can go out and catch them on a minnow style bait, and if you keep it in your hand all day, you're going to catch some fish. But I mean, I enjoy fishing, I enjoy covering water, and that's the reason, a rock crawler, a 110+1, a regular McStick 110, and we've thrown a swim bait, we've thrown a underspin. I mean, we've really mixed it up today and caught one on about every bait we've thrown. He got it. Be a largemouth for us. Come on. Be an old head. Nope. Yeah, maybe it is. It is the right species. Finally caught a largemouth. And that's what I was saying. I mean, you put yourself out there on the main lake and you're going to catch largemouth, but you got to be very specific about it out there. You got to usually be on bait or around timber, and you get back in these creeks and your odds always go up of catching largemouth. I mean, they live in these creeks, and you can definitely plan on catching some largemouth. I know he's not a big one, but he could have just as easily been a 5-pounder as a 1.75 pounds. I think they're starting to bite a little bit. The water temperature's finally climbed. I mean, we've almost climbed 2 degrees since this morning. And I mean, this time of year, that's a big thing. I mean, we started this morning, it was like 46.2, and we're up to almost 48 right now. So, when you get that water temperature warming, I would always rather fish an afternoon in the springtime of the year as a morning. I mean, you typically always have a little bit of a bite first thing in the morning, but the afternoons definitely always go better when that water temperature starts creeping up a little bit.